Hola, I'm Hannah from Speak Better Spanish. I'm here to help you stop overthinking Spanish and actually speak it. One of the most common things I hear from Spanish learners is this: I'd practice speaking more if I had someone to talk to. Maybe you said that yourself. Maybe you want to improve your Spanish. You know, speaking is important. You know, conversations are where the real progress happens, but you don't have a Spanish speaking significant other. You don't live near native speakers. You don't have a language exchange partner. You don't have regular classes. So you end up waiting until you find someone to practice with, waiting until your next trip, waiting until you feel more confident, waiting until the perfect opportunity shows up. And while you're waiting, your Spanish speaking skills stay exactly where they are. If that sounds familiar, I want to share something that might completely change the way you think about speaking practice. You do not need another person in order to practice speaking Spanish. In fact, some of the most effective speaking practice can happen completely by yourself. After teaching Spanish for nearly 20 years, I've worked with many students who made significant improvements before they ever started having regular conversations with native speakers. And the reason is simple: speaking is a skill. Like any skill, it can be practiced in pieces. Most learners assume that speaking practice only counts if another person is involved, but that's not true. Think about a musician. A musician doesn't wait until a concert to practice. They practice scales, they practice individual songs, they repeat difficult sections. They spend hours preparing before they ever perform in front of someone. The same thing applies to speaking Spanish. The problem is that most learners don't know how to practice speaking on their own. So they either don't practice at all or they do activities that feel productive but don't actually build speaking ability. For example, many learners spend all their time consuming Spanish. They listen to podcasts, they watch YouTube videos, they use apps, they read articles, and all of those things can be helpful. But listening is not speaking. Reading is not speaking. Watching videos is not speaking. If your goal is to speak Spanish more confidently, you need to spend time actually producing Spanish. That means opening your mouth and speaking, even if nobody else is there. I recently worked with a student who was frustrated because she lived in a small town and didn't know anyone who spoke Spanish. She told me, "I feel stuck because I never get to practice." When I asked her how often she actually spoke Spanish out loud, her answer was almost never. She listened to Spanish every day, she studied vocabulary every day, but she rarely spoke. And that's when we changed her approach. Instead of waiting for conversational opportunities, we started building daily speaking habits. Within a few months, her confidence improved dramatically, not because she found more people to talk to, but because she started talking more. The first framework I recommend is something called daily narration. This is exactly what it sounds like. You narrate parts of your day in Spanish. For example, while making coffee, you might say, "Estoy preparando café. Tengo mucho trabajo hoy. Después, voy al gimnasio." When you're driving, "Hay mucho tráfico. Voy al supermercado. Necesito comprar fruta." These sentences are simple, but that's the point. You're training your brain to turn thoughts into Spanish automatically, and that skill transfers directly into conversations. Another framework I love is answering common questions. Think about the questions people ask all the time. Where are you from? What do you do for work? Why are you learning Spanish? What did you do this weekend? What are your hobbies? What are your travel plans? Record yourself answering these questions. Speak for 30 seconds, then 1 minute, then 2 minutes. You'll quickly discover where your vocabulary gaps are. You'll discover which grammar structures you struggle with. You'll discover which topics make you freeze. And that's valuable information because now you know what to practice. Another mistake I see learners making is trying to practice random Spanish. They sit down and think, "Okay, what should I talk about?" And their mind goes blank. This is why guided structure is so important. Structure removes decision fatigue. Instead of trying to invent topics, use prompts. Describe your house, describe your family, describe your morning routine, describe your last vacation, describe your dream trip, describe your hometown. When you have a framework, speaking becomes much easier. One of my students started doing a 5-minute daily routine where she described one photo from her phone every day. Sometimes it was a photo of her dog, sometimes it was a meal, sometimes it was a vacation photo. The topic didn't matter. What mattered was consistent speaking practice. After several months, she noticed something interesting happening. When real conversations happened, she could respond faster. Her brain had already developed the habit of producing Spanish. That's the goal, not perfection, production. Another powerful exercise is storytelling. Pick a simple story from your day. Maybe something funny happened at work, maybe you went shopping, maybe you met a friend for coffee. Then tell that story out loud in Spanish. Don't worry about getting every word perfect. Focus on communicating the main idea. The more stories you tell, the easier conversation becomes because conversation is often just storytelling. You're telling people what happened, what you're doing, what you're planning, what you think. And storytelling helps you practice all of that. Now, eventually, real conversations are important. At some point, you'll want interaction, you'll want feedback, you'll want to practice listening and responding. But here's what many learners don't realize: the students who improve the fastest in conversation sessions are usually the ones who already practice speaking on their own. They don't rely entirely on class time, they arrive prepared. They've already spent time producing Spanish throughout the week. That means their conversation sessions become more productive. Instead of struggling to say basic sentences, they can focus on improving accuracy, fluency, and confidence. This is where guided practice becomes incredibly valuable. When you combine self practice with structured conversations, progress often accelerates dramatically. And that's exactly why I encourage students not to wait. Don't wait for a trip. Don't wait for a conversation partner. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start speaking today. Speak to yourself. Describe your day. Answer questions. Tell stories. Record yourself. Practice for 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. The amount of time matters less than the consistency, because every minute you spend producing Spanish is training the exact skill you wanted to improve. And if you've been feeling stuck because you don't have anyone to help to talk to, I hope this gives you some encouragement. Your progress does not have to stop while you're waiting for a conversation partner. You can build speaking skills right now. You can become more confident right now. You can develop fluency right now. At Speak Better Spanish, this is something we help students with all the time. We help them build structured speaking habits both inside and outside of class so they continue improving even between lessons. If you'd like help creating a personalized plan for your Spanish, I'll put a link below to schedule a free Spanish roadmap session. And if you'd like a deeper explanation on this topic and how to implement it in your life, I've linked a full blog article below. Remember, fluency isn't built only during conversations, it's built during all the practice that happens before the conversation ever starts.